more from Jennie and Philip very, very soon. But my other guest is Suzanne Caldwell from Cumbria Chamber of Commerce. Something we've spoken about a lot, Suzanne, has been, well, I think Rob calls it the demographic time bomb.
He does indeed.
The ageing population, which is going to cause us one or two problems because basically Cumbrian businesses are going to run out potentially of staff, trained staff.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of businesses are struggling at the moment. But by 2021, we're going to be short of at least 80,000 staff.
80,000?
66,500 of those alone are just to replace natural wastage
Right.
of people leaving and retiring. That's without any initiatives to create new businesses, growth of businesses, new opportunities in the county. So it is a real challenge for us all, and that's starting from a point of struggling for staff now.
Well, let's get a sort of flavour of it. Philip, I mean, you, as we said, have got businesses or premises all over the place in Cumbria and into Northumberland. But at your heart, I suppose it's Eden Valley. I mean, that is almost full employment there. I mean, how challenging is it to find staff then?
It is as simple as it is simply challenging. If we go back quite a few years, you'd put an advert in the paper and you'd have a choice. Your choice is very much reduced, and you just you've got to interview people. If you think they're the right person, you've got to act quick, take them on, but then help them as much as you can, because you've got to work harder at retention. Staff retention it's higher in my business than I want it. I guess when it's full employment, it's easy to move on as well. So you've just got to work harder at it, and there are you hit points in the seasons, in say height of summer season, where you are genuinely short-staffed, and you've got to be careful that you don't put too much on your existing staff.
Okay.
And it
just exacerbates the problems, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
So that's the situation at the moment. So we're heading towards this cliff edge then. Left and share. What could this mean? I mean, what's the doomsday scenario?
I think the other thing to think about is it's not a problem in the places that we traditionally think about being fully employed, such as the Eden Valley. It's a problem throughout the county. Although we've got some pockets of real deprivation and long-term unemployment, even in those areas, there are problems recruiting staff, and they're made all the more challenging for businesses because you've got sort of dislocations in wage rates caused by things like the nuclear industry.
Yes.
Who pay much higher rates than normal businesses can really afford to pay. So there's challenges all around the county.
So how is this challenge being addressed? I mean, one of the reasons we got you on the show is obviously to unveil this grant scheme. Is that the way?
I mean, absolutely. I think with a challenge this big, one thing is not going to resolve it. So the thing that we've launched a big campaign promoting this week is it's a European funded project funded by European Social Fund, and it's all about helping businesses to train the staff. So we've got a big campaign encouraging businesses to get in touch, can get a review free of charge of the training needs and the opportunities for training that perhaps they haven't thought of. And then there's a whole raft of free training the businesses can access. Through the scheme, we'll be training 6,500 people, which is a drop in the ocean, I know, but a step in the right direction. And also working with businesses to help them find training to fulfil other needs where it's not something that's already available in the county or available funded through the scheme. So that's there, and we really would encourage people to call the Growth Hub and take advantage of that. But alongside of that, we are going to need to do more things, because training is all very well, but as we've just been discussing, you need to find somebody to train in the first place. So you can use it to upskill your existing staff or new staff to increase their productivity.
Yes, productivity.
Which is going to be really important.
Because it's something the UK doesn't do particularly well compared to our competitors.
It is something we're lacking in. And part of that is because actually traditionally we've had lower wage rates than places like Germany. So it's always been more cost effective there to invest in mechanisation and productivity than it has been here. But that is something that we are really going to have to all get to grips with.
How do we increase our productivity? I know it's a big question, but in general, how do we do?
Right. Well, there's two core things, and I'm sure Philip will add to this. But one of the ways that you can do it is training your staff to look at your process, working on your processes, getting them slicker, getting people just working quicker and more effectively. The other one is investment in equipment that's going to replace people.
Right.
And enable them to do the jobs quicker. And that's one of the ways that traditionally grant schemes from government, even very recently and currently, are predicated on people creating more jobs. And what we really need is to move away from that and to put support in for people increasing the productivity, not saying you can have this money if you create more jobs.
Right. So there needs to be certain indicators that people will be monitored by, whereby this money comes with strings, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, is that something that's in the pipeline then?
It is certainly something that I know the government is looking at the moment. Yeah.
Right. So tell us which businesses are eligible. How big are the firms? I mean,
right. So it's aimed at businesses with up to 250 full-time employees.
Right.
And but across every sector, it doesn't matter if you're a retailer, hospitality, a butcher, farmer, manufacturing, anybody in the private sector really is eligible for that.
Right. Obviously, we've got two businesses in the room, and I mean we're talking quite rationally about the problem associated with training and things like that, and staffing. I mean, Jennie, you've got a small business; it's growing, but I mean, in terms of finding the right staff, how much of an issue is that?
We've just started employing people as we're expanding at the lodges at Artlegarth with our new lodges, and we're quite fortunate because our hours are conducive to people, particularly working mums who can come in because the changeovers occur between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock, so it works around the school hours. But we've also employed a very enthusiastic young person, but we know it's very important for her to have personal and professional development, so that we have signed her up for an MVQ, so that we're providing that for her in order to make sure that once we find the right people, we're providing them with opportunities and job satisfaction so that we can keep hold of them.
You've got to look after her, Philip, as you were talking about. I mean, if it is, I suppose, an employees market, they will, if they don't like where they're working, they'll perhaps find another place to work.
Absolutely.
I'm not suggesting this is true in Cranstons. I'm sure everyone stays.
I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not. No, you have to get the right working conditions. Make sure that the hours they're working are what they want to work. You know, at one stage, people would happily work hours of overtime, but a lot of people just want the 40 hours.
Right.
And we were much more flexible on that. You know, perhaps somebody might just want to work 30 hours. And it's really keeping in touch with your employee, and occasionally somebody will leave and you'll have a chat to them, and they've handed the notice in, they've accepted another job, and then when you have a good chat to them, really they've left because they didn't think they could ask for a 10-hour drop a week.
Oh, right.
You know,
right.
And you can sometimes lose a good member of staff for not being fleet of foot enough, if you like, or just having that conversation about hours.
So you've
really got to keep talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, Suzanne, I suppose it's a current environment. People are demanding more, in a sense, or more flexibility at least. It's not necessarily about money. It's not be all and end all, but it obviously does help. But
it's not all about money. Like Philip said, and a lot of it is, some of it's about hours. A lot of it is still about job satisfaction.
Yeah.
And there's study, apparently 80% of businesses that invest in apprenticeships, their staff retention increases.
Right.
And there's a lot of studies showing that that businesses where they invest in training, the staff are more motivated and satisfied and much less likely to leave. So there are all those it is about, I think people are increasingly concerned about being happy at work.
Yeah.
And obviously, if there's really high employment, it's a lot easier to go and find somewhere where you think you're going to be happier if you're not. So
Well, you're at work a long time, aren't you?
Yeah, you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that is, as you're right, that is as important as the money, perhaps even more so. You don't want to be miserable at work, do you? So we're back to the grants, the profiting through skills. I mean, £8.5 million out there.
Right. So the project is employee supporting skills, which isn't a very sexy title, but. So that's the actual project. It's £8.5 million. It runs through till July next year. And as I say, there's loads of money there, so I really would encourage people to to make the phone call and get the training needs analysis done and start taking advantage of the training that's there.
I mean, you've obviously done a lot of work as a chamber in terms of analysing where there seems to be the biggest amount of deficiency or anticipated deficiency in terms of training and where the workforce is heading. What sectors are particularly vulnerable then?
To be honest, it goes right across the board.
Okay.
Everyone is struggling with it. Farmers are struggling with it. Manufacturing businesses are struggling with it. Hospitality industry is really struggling with it. It's it is an across the board problem. And everybody's got their own particular versions of it and their own particular issues. So in a lot of hospitality there are issues with things like split shifts and them really just not working for people, and particularly not working for people in areas where they have to live quite a distance from where they work, and they can't just be nipping backwards to forwards and work more than once during the day. Others are really struggling because there is such demand for staff and such relatively high pay in the nuclear industry that businesses are struggling to compete against that.
Right.
So everybody's got different challenges, but they are widespread.
Suzanne, for the time being, thank you very much.